to another feast of fun and frolics from downtown Shepherd's Bush. My first guest is no stranger to this show, but that doesn't make him any the less welcome every time he manages to fit us into his busy schedule. He's what we call a proper actor, no less. The blowtorch of the Barbican, the uncrowned Vesuvius of the English classical stage. Call him what you will. He's a lover of fine wines, of shouting in restaurants, and of Victorian garden furniture. A man of many parts indeed, and all of them starring parts. A big thespian welcome, please, for Mr. Nicholas Craig.
Now, this is literally the most completely terrifying part of an actor's job. It's infinitely worse than a first night because, you see, one has no mask to hide behind. One is playing the hardest character of all, oneself. All the more surprising, then, that just about every analysis of the craft of acting fails completely to tackle chat show technique. And that's what we're going to be looking at tonight. So first, a few sitting exercises just to get ourselves warmed up. Now, we're safely in the chair, and we're ready to natter away about what we've been up to. Let's see how Anthony Andrews, a real master of the relaxed interview, and also a bloody good mate, gets himself started.
Yes, we've just completed what I suppose could be called a trial run at Greenwich, which was very successful, of a play called One of Us, which, for me, was quite an event.
Yes. Now, Anthony's done something very clever here. Not only has he established that he's successful, but he's also slipped in a "for me" very early on. It's a key phrase which we use to convey sincerity and vulnerability. There's a slight risk of self-consciousness, but of course Anthony knows what he's doing. He's used it before.
For me, I just want the variety. The thing for me, the bit like that for me.
As has Jeremy Irons.
I haven't found many good scripts coming out of Hollywood, for me.
And Julie Walters.
It comes from kind of, well, for me.
And Albert Finney.
For me.
Anyway, back to Anthony's play at Greenwich.
Which, for me, was quite an event, because it's been nearly 9 years since I was on the stage. Not by design.
Another important point is that however many films and TV series one has to go off and do, one's heart is always in the theatre.
I think I'm essentially a theatre chap myself.
We have great theatre in this country, and I
always go back to him. He's the love of my life. I mean, when in doubt, go off and do some Shakespeare.
I love the theatre, but I must say the films I was never really happy in.
Stuart Granger there, speaking, I'm sure, for a great many of us. But back to Anthony.
Because it's been nearly 9 years since I was on the stage. Not by design, but mainly because I was looking for a new piece of material.
We're scoring points all the time here. It's always good to show that you're selective about what you do, otherwise the audience might think you simply have to take whatever work is offered to you.
I turned down a lot of parts because they seemed to me to be merely decorative.
There's a stage, you know, if you want to do anything where you have to. Well, I wanted to go into movies, and I wanted to go into London theatre, and I thought I must not do anything. I mustn't go and work in rep, because that's what I want to do. So instead of working in rep, where I don't want to work for a bit, I will do gardening.
Yes, that's perhaps going a bit too far, Jeremy. There were some nice intentions there, though. But let's see how the master rounds off his opening remarks.
And it went particularly well, and yes, we're now actively looking for a theatre, and I hope to bring it in after I finish my next film.
Well, I mean, you can't really better this. He's relaxed, well-dressed, a nice modern haircut. He's established that he's successful, he's sincere, he loves the theatre, and he's choosy about what he does, and he's got a job coming up. Anything else we need to get across?
I mean, I always feel terribly lucky.
Modesty. Right. Now, shall we all try that?
I had a very lucky childhood.
I was very lucky in having a really good pair of parents.
I've been lucky enough.
Well, I mean, I'm lucky.
Very nice, Kenneth. And super, all of you. But, I don't know, it could all begin to sound a little bit easy, couldn't it?
It's very hard, you know.
Very hard indeed.
I did find it very hard.
And it's very, very difficult.
It is dog eat dog.
It's every man for himself, and that includes the women.
It's really the toughest profession that you can go into.
So, what is it that makes actors so special?
It comes from feeling inadequate, I think, for me.
It is based on insecurity, you're absolutely right.
I think all actors are dreadfully insecure.
So, taking some of that on board, and in our own time, let's have a little go at talking about what it's like to be an actor. Helen Mirren.
It's never really unpleasant doing a film because it is like an army going to war. And they bring everything. They bring the food, you know, you're in the middle of the jungle and there's a whole 10-course meal laid out for you.
Now, Helen, just stop and think. I know this is tricky, but just center yourself and have another little try. Location filming.
It satisfies the wandering urge. It's the most incredibly incredible.
Yes, all right, Helen. Let's just stop there for a minute, shall we? Now, we've established that it's very, very tough. It's very hard. Don't forget it drove poor Jeremy to gardening. That it's dog eat dog and incredibly incredible. But what else is there that we ought to say about acting?
You have to get up early, don't you?
You have to get up early. Thank you, Robert. You have to get up early, especially when filming. And you have to be physically fit.
I work out every morning, sometimes 4, usually around about 5.
I was up at 4 in the morning to do my exercise before I left at 5:30 or 6, and then back at 6:30 or 7, and 10 more pages the next day, and...
A lot of exercise, a lot of jumping around.
Well, I was up at 5 o'clock the next morning working anyway, so, you know, there we are.
One could fall flat on one's face by doing too much training, as you probably know, Lloyd. Yeah. The famous story is told of a widow in 1840.
Thank you, Donald. So we're talking about a very, very tough job indeed. But surely there must be some pluses. I mean, the camaraderie, for instance.
A wonderful cast of actors working with me and actresses.
Now, I'm sorry to keep stopping you, but if you are working with a wonderful cast, we want to know in what ways they are wonderful. How much do you love them? Are they wonderful without exception? Or are some of them merely marvelous? And above all, what are their names?
My darling Ginny Mason.
Anne Jackson, you know, lovely, lovely actress.
I had supper with Jane Russell.
Shall I tell you about the time Judi Dench fed Willie?
Jack is just wonderful in it.
Jack Lemmon.
I loved David Niven.
I went on to Los Angeles and fell in love with the lovely Deborah Raffin.
Andrew's flawless again. And consummate professional that he is, he's helpfully led the conversation on to the next topic, America.
I mean, I spent a lot of time in America doing various things, and I was asked to do a long-running series, not once, but several times.
He really doesn't miss a trick, this boy.
I kept going over and meeting them, and eventually the day came when they said, now that the time comes to sign the thing, and I backed out.
We decided not to live in America.
No, I'd rather be here.
England is home.
You just have to look at some actors, naming no names, who should have been our greatest actors, who became very rich and very unhappy in Hollywood. So no, that's not the way.
But of course you see the money out there, so wonderful.
Kate, now stop it. You're getting Helen's disease. Now, you sit down and have a little relax and a ponderette, and we'll go on to the anecdote. So, Donald.
When I did, what was it, what place?
All right, Donald, now, just don't worry, take a deep breath and try again.
I was in a play called London Assurance some years back, and at the end of the play, knock at the dressing room door.
As I came round the corner with the furniture on the back, the director yelled to me,
"Action!" And I come on, and the snake comes up and does this. Take my hat off, hit it, grab it.
And put the nuts around so it looks as though I was having a party.
And I said, "Oh, my dear, I'm so sorry." And I bent down and I kissed her ankle.
And came to the take. What we'd overlooked
was that we were going to have to do the shot that follows that, which meant that I had to therefore be driving a horse at a full gallop with the 12 horsemen behind me down a stony path, but standing up.
Very good. Antony's introduced physical courage, raising the stakes at exactly the correct moment.
Boom! And I hit him, smack in the teeth.
Blood poured.
I spent the next 2 hours taking the oven apart and trying to work the oven, and I couldn't. And in the end, I found a grill. This chicken was ready at 5:30 in the afternoon, and my vegetables are absolutely annihilated.
Now, if you're having trouble with your anecdote, Michael, don't, whatever you do, get into a panic. Remember, you can always do a funny voice and get the audience back on your side.
Oh, listen, this is really great. You know, you're a great star, a great man.
Well, we thought we'd come along here and down the Haymarket.
Your escort's just booted me on the foot.
And if all else fails, you can go into the Richard III impression.
My Lord of Gloucester awaits in the anteroom.
Now, it's easy enough to be daunted, isn't it, as lovely Helen was, by the sheer volume of things one has to remember. Funny voices, for me, modesty, beard, fitness, danger, etc. And a beginner could be forgiven for just bursting into floods of tears and fleeing for the hospitality room. But just see how many points this young actor manages to get across in his very first prime-time interview.
Which is amazing for me. Well, I suppose I have been very lucky. A lot of people who are involved in acting seem to be quite, I don't know, very insecure. And I do things like jet skiing, which is, I suppose, a little bit sporty. I had to be sucked into the pit of hell. I had to almost drown. I kind of find out if I open my eyes in the morning, I'm exhausted.
To be or not to be? Anthony Andrews, watch out. Now, like it or not, we've nearly all of us come onto the show to do a specific job.
You have to ask me about my book.
I've come here because I'm over in England because I have written a new novel.
Arthur Daly's Guide to Doing It Right.
Published today.
I'm hoping that the BBC, they haven't asked yet, but I am hoping they will let me read it on radio.
Very good, George. Using the space nicely to put out a general advertisement for your services. It's very important to make full use of the job-getting potential of the situation.
I'd like to balance that up with, if it's possible, doing some film and some television.
I have to keep doing a bit of theatre and the odd movie when it comes along.
Nobody's ever asked me to play St. Joan, and I don't know why. I mean, I'd love to.
Wonderful musical would be a nice
Back
thing.
to the old musicals.
Oh, I'd love it.
I'm dying to dive in all sorts of different directions.
Now, time's running out now, but see how, in the dying moments of the interview, Jean Alexander, late of Coronation Street, fires in a lightning plea for a job.
Well, I hope you'll continue to be the successful and loved, and I'm sure you will,
Well, I
actress
just
that you are.
hope a nice play turns up.
See that again?
Hope a nice play turns up.
Superb. But look at Albert here, one of our finest classical heavyweights, wantonly wasting the closing seconds. He could be asking for a job, he could be saying he's insecure, he could be growing a beard, but disasters like this will continue to occur until actors are properly trained in interview technique. Well, it's been smashing for me talking to you tonight and seeing so many dear old mates again. And if you want to know more about the toughest job in the world, then you can either read my book or come to my masterclass at the Yvonne Pranson Theatre, Basingstoke, next Tuesday at 6 o'clock in the morning. Good night.